Hi, thanks for checking out this presentation on assessment in the 21st century. Last year, I learned that the OCDSB has outlined a set of exit outcomes for students in our board. These exit outcomes are basically competencies that, according to the OCDSB, each student should have acquired by the time they graduate high school. This is board policy, but it's also fair and clear to me that accepting these outcomes in part or in whole is within the realm of legitimate professional judgment on the part of teachers. That said, I've drunk the Kool-Aid, at least in part, and I want to share what I've learned. You can easily find the board's webpage about exit outcomes by Googling OCDSB and, quote, exit outcomes, unquote. They divide these exit outcomes into 5 characteristics, which are traits that enhance their ability to perform different tasks successfully, and 5 skills, which are abilities that are learned or developed through experience. The 5 characteristics are, and these are all I'm quoting extensively here from the OCDSB's PDF on exit outcomes, that students should be resilient. That means able to face and overcome adversity and challenging situations. That students should have global awareness. Students are empathetic and responsive in their contributions to the local and global community. That students are collaborative. That means they understand the importance of working cooperatively in a team setting and value diverse perspectives and effectively utilize each person's contributions. That they're innovative and creative. Students have original thoughts and ideas that are of value and are acted upon. Finally, that they're goal-oriented. Students have self-motivation, diligence, initiative, and a sense of responsibility. The 5 skills that the board thinks should be exit outcomes for all the students in our board, and again I'm quoting extensively from the PDF on exit outcomes, are that students be critical thinkers, that they're able to engage in reflective and independent thinking. They can identify the relevance, validity, and importance of ideas using rational and intuitive processes. Second, that they're effective communicators. That means that they're skilled at listening, speaking, questioning, and writing. Thirdly, that they're academically diverse. They should have strong literacy and numeracy skills. They will also have acquired a full spectrum of skills through exposure to a wide variety of subjects. Fourthly, they're digitally fluent. That means they know how to engage with technology to enhance their learning. Fifthly and lastly, that they're ethical decision makers. They're able to model principles that govern their decisions through their actions. They embody honesty, respect, and responsibility. Although they're not characterized as such by the OCDSB, these exit outcomes align almost exactly with one or more variations of what are more commonly known in educational technology circles as 21st century competencies or 21st century learning objectives. The idea being that the spread of digital technologies in the school environment and the surrounding world invites a rethinking of what should count as a well-educated individual. The roadmap to achieving these exit outcomes almost always involves an emphasis on something that is purported to be a new idea called authentic assessment. Authentic assessment, Authentic assessments consist of tasks in which students are asked to demonstrate what they've learned by applying it in an authentic way. Often, this application is to a problem or task that reproduces or meaningfully mimics one that they might be expected to encounter in the real world or in subsequent education as adults. According to John Mueller, a professor of psychology at North Central College in Illinois, authentic assessments are at one end of a spectrum. The other end of that spectrum is characterized by traditional assessments. The stereotypical traditional assessment is the multiple choice test, in which students are given a forced choice between a limited set of possible answers. Mueller writes, students typically select an answer or recall information to complete the assessment, unquote. It is grounded in an educational philosophy which views the goal of education as the installation of a set of skills or body of knowledge in the student. If successful, this student will then be a productive citizen. Curriculum is the foundation of assessment. Once the body of knowledge that the student must acquire has been identified, the curriculum can be developed and delivered. The assessments are then constructed to check whether the curriculum has indeed been acquired. Authentic assessment proceeds from the assumption that assessment is the foundation of curriculum. It is grounded in an educational philosophy which views the goal of education as the development of individuals who are capable of performing meaningful tasks in the real world. Mueller writes, Teachers first determine the tasks that the students will perform to demonstrate their mastery, and then a curriculum is developed that will enable students to perform those tasks well. It's important to note that the idea of authentic assessment is not new to the 21st century. It was an important component of my own education as far back as the 1970s. English teachers who asked students to write critical essays on literary tasks as opposed to answering multiple choice questions on the text are engaged in a form of authentic assessment. Science teachers who have students perform lab experiments and report on them are asking their students to produce an authentic assessment. Math teachers who pose questions that have multiple pathways to a solution or even multiple solutions are engaged in authentic assessment. What is important in a 21st century context is that the authentic assessment tasks are those that demonstrate the ability to perform meaningful tasks in the real world of the 21st century. These will include things like the ability to use digital tools to collaborate on a task, even when team members are not located in the same physical space. It will include the ability to communicate effectively across a broad range of text-based and non-text-based media. Think blogs, tweets, video, podcasts. It will include the ability to craft solutions to problems that reflect global diversity. Authentic assessment is furthermore not necessarily a complete replacement for traditional assessment. Muller poses an interesting hypothetical. If I had a choice between a chauffeur who had successfully completed the written portion of the driver's test, that's traditional assessment, but failed the road test, think authentic assessment, and one who had failed the written portion but passed the road test, which should I choose? Well, the chauffeur who passed the road test is the obvious choice, but that forced choice overlooks the fact that a chauffeur who had successfully passed both the written and the road test, in other words, both the traditional and the authentic assessment, would be the best choice. Traditional assessment and authentic assessment can complement each other. Indeed, the relative proportions of the mix between the traditional and authentic assessment can and should vary between subjects and between teachers within subjects. For example, in second languages, students need to develop the ability to hold a conversation or to write persuasively. This is authentic assessment. But there is also an argument to be made that students need to memorize vocabulary and the rules of grammar, and this learning can be helped when students are tested on this in traditional assignments. Authentic assessment is not the one true pedagogy replacing all others which have come before it, and to which all teachers must bow. Teachers do their best teaching when they have the autonomy to cultivate the conditions for both their own growth and thriving as teachers and that of their students. A classroom is an ecology, not a production facility, and it is healthiest when the conditions within it nourish all its inhabitants.